Yamunatira vanachari Yamuna Yamunatira vanachari Yamunadera Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Sanstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokupinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrinda Devi Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Shri Jagannath Paridham Ki Shri Dwarka Paridham Ki Shri Ayodhya Paridham Ki Shri Shri Kishore Kishori Mandir Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Hare Krishna Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam Skanda 9 Adhyaya 6. What are the shlokas, or just one shloka? (49 and 50), because 49 has a purport, 50 does not have a purport. Sakada chid upasina atma panvama atmanaha dadarsha bhavrichacharyo Mina Sangas Samutthitham Sagada excuse me. Sakada Chid Upasina Atma Panvamanatmanaha Dadarsha Bhavrichacharyo Mina Sangas Samutthitham Sakada Chid Upasina Atma Panvanam Dadarsha Bhavrichacharyo Mina Sangas Samutthitham Sakada Chid Upasina Atma Bhavanatmanaha Dadarsha Bhavrichacharyo Mina Sanga Samutthitham Sakada Chidupasina Atma Panvamanatmanaha Dadarsha Bhavrichacharyo Mina Sangas Samutthitham Sakada Chid Upasina Atma Panvamanatmanaha Dadarsha Bhavrichacharyo Mina Sangas Samutthitham Padapataha Saha He, Sobari Muni, Kadachit, one day, Upasinaha, sitting down, Atma Apavan, Atma, oh, it's a tough one for me too. Atma Apahavan Avam, degrading oneself from the platform of tapasya. Atmanaha, self-caused. Dadarsha, observed. Bahuricha acharyaha, Sobari Muni, who was expert in chanting mantras. Mina Sangha, the sexual affairs of fish. Samutthitham, caused by this incident. Thereafter, one day, while Sobari Muni, who was expert in chanting mantras, was sitting in a secluded place, he thought to himself about the cause of his fall down, which was simply that he had associated himself with the sexual affairs of the fish. Purport: Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Sobari Muni had fallen from his austerity because of a Vaishnava aparad. The history is that when Garuda wanted to eat fish, Sobari Muni unnecessarily gave the fish shelter under his care. Because Garuda's plans for eating were disappointed, Sobari Muni certainly committed a great offense to a Vaishnava. Because of this Vaishnava aparad, his offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, Sobari Muni fell from his exalted position of mystic tapasya. One should not therefore impede the activities of a Vaishnava. This is a lesson we must learn from this incident concerning Sobari Muni. Now you want me to read the next verse? Aho imam pashyata me vignasham tapasvina satcharitas vratasya antarjale bharichara prasangat prachavitam brahmachiram dritam yat. Translation: Alas, while practicing austerity, even within the depths of the water and while observing all the rules and regulations practiced by saintly persons, I lost the results of my austerities simply by association with the sexual affairs of fish. Everyone should observe this fall down and learn from it. So Vishwanath Chakravarti said, or wrote rather, that Sobari Muni fell because of Vaishnava aparad. But that Vaishnava aparad was to prevent Garuda from eating a fish. So a Vaishnav can eat fish, according to the logic, isn't it? Am I wrong? If he has a body that's meant for eating fish, which is the body of a bird, that's the, what is it? What's the word that I should use for that? That's the condition for a Vaishnav who wants to eat non-vegetarian food. But he's still a Vaishnav. Garuda eats snakes and fish. But he's one of the greatest Vaishnavas. So it's hard to understand because we preach to people not to eat non-vegetarian food. It's contaminating. It's unofferable. Krishna doesn't accept it. Right? Krishna doesn't accept non-vegetarian food. And food, non-vegetarian food, like fish, in fact, they say that one who eats fish eats everything, because fish eat everything. Fish in the water, of course, they can't eat metal. They can't eat what do you call it? Hard rocks and metal. But they eat all kinds of garbage that's floating in the water. So eating fish is sometimes considered to be the lowest type of activity. But here Garuda wanted to eat the fish, and he was prevented by Sobari Muni, who had a soft heart. A great sage has a soft heart, compassion. Jivadaya, compassion for other living entities. Now, the greatest compassion, we say, is to uplift the fallen living entity from the material condition. How is that possible? We say Harinam. Harinam will uplift the living entities. Although fish and animals cannot chant Harinam. They can hear, they cannot chant. They can take prasad. Prabhupada gave the dog prasad. There's a story like that. And he said the dog didn't come back when the dog went back to Godhead. So it's possible for an animal to get liberation if they take prasad. Garuda is an animal, apparently, but he's not an ordinary animal that we understand. He's directly coming from the spiritual world as the carrier of Vishnu. Then why should he eat a fish? It's hard to understand, isn't it? Hard if you try to understand that why should the carrier of Vishnu, who's coming from the spiritual world, who doesn't have a material body, right? When Vishnu comes from the spiritual world, he doesn't have a material body, he has a spiritual body, Satchit Ananda. Our material body is made of the 5 material elements: earth, fire, water, air, ether, sky. Earth, fire, water, air, and sky. A combination of these 5. But when Garuda brings Vishnu from Vishnu Loka, then how can he have a material body? Why does he need to eat a fish? Can anybody answer that? I don't think I can answer that. Pastime, Leela. That's the only thing we can say, I think. Yeah. Yeah, but the Kshatriyas are in the material world. They have material bodies. Garuda, does he have a material body? I don't think so. He's coming from Vaikuntha Lokam, the planet of Vishnu. Hard one to understand. Hard to understand. Kshatriyas are allowed to eat meat, but they have to perform atonement, prayashchittam, for all of the sins. Even then it's sinful. Even then it's sinful, and it's in the lower modes. A Kshatriya is in the mode of passion. Brahmana is in the mode of goodness. Vaishya, passion and ignorance, and Shudras in the mode of ignorance. Now these are generalizations. There may be some Shudra who's a great Vaishnav. Kola Vecha Sridhar. Kola is a Bengali pronunciation for Kela, which is Hindi, which in Sanskrit is Kadali Phalam. Phalam is fruit. Kadali, banana. Kadali became Kela, Kela became Kola. You know, here also some of the words in the Guru, what is it? Guru Vandana? Shri Guru Charana Padma, Shri Guru Vandana. Prakash, but in Bengal they say Prakash, Prakash. And Chakshudan, Chakshu is Sanskrit, and I hear everybody here Chakku, and it's written Chakku. Chakku is the Bengali, they don't say Chakshu, they say Chakku, but it's in Sanskrit and Hindi, Chakshu, eyes. Chakshudan, giving the eyes. Hriday Prakashita, Prakash means light. Hriday is the heart. Where was I? How did I get here? Kshatriyas eating meat. They're in the mode of ignorance. Kola Vechashri. So Kola, Kela, Kadali, it's the job of a Shudra or a Vaishya actually. Vaishya, you can say. Who sells bananas? Brahmanas don't sell bananas. Brahmanas are busy studying Vedas and Vedic literature and teaching. Teachers. Gurus are teachers. The Brahmanas are a guru. Gurus of the society. Because they studied Vedic literature, they teach Patana. And how Kola Vecha Sridhar, he was either a Vaishya or a Shudra, but he was a great devotee. Even in Ramanuja Sampradaya, in the story of Ramanujacharya, how many of you read the life of Ramanujacharya? No, you read. So when he was living in Kanchipuram, he came from a village near Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is near Madras, which is now called Chennai. It's about 70 kilometers away. What is that? 50 miles. 50 miles from the big city, Kanchipuram. There's 108 temples. It's a very beautiful place. Did you visit? You went. You didn't go. You didn't make it. No. Worth going. Ramanuja was living there and he was studying Vedanta. Vedanta sutras and the commentaries. When you say studying Vedanta, Vedanta is actually the Upanishads. So there are different teachers who will teach either Upanishads or the commentaries or the explanation of Vyasadeva, Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras give a concise idea what is in the Upanishads. And then to explain the Brahma Sutras, because they're very difficult to understand, they're sutras condensed. Sorry for the noise. Is there a helipad next door? To explain those, there are many, many commentaries. There's commentaries on commentaries. So students will come to a learned Brahmana. Ramanujacharya himself did that. In his Grihastha ashram, he did that. He was already married. For a Brahmana, business is studying and teaching. But a Vaishnav may be like Garuda or Kolavecha Sridhar. Wow, it's pretty loud, huh? Sounds like helicopters landed next door. Maybe it'll pass. So Vaishnav can be from any community. We see there Kshatriya Vaishnavas. Bhima is considered a great Vaishnava. Bhima ate meat. Prabhupada said Bhima ate meat. Vaishnav may eat meat, then how are we preaching to everybody not to eat meat? Prabhupada condemned Western religions as the religions of the meat eaters privately. Publicly, he praised the Western religions, but privately, he didn't have such great regard, which means that it was time and circumstance. At times you have to please people by speaking sweet words. And other times you have to tell your disciples the truth. What does it mean, meat eater? And when in Vedic culture there are Vaishnavas who eat meat, what does it mean? It means killing cows. That's what I understand. Those religions where cows are killed, they are great offenders, and there's ignorance, great ignorance. But even this meat that Bhima ate, or that other Kshatriyas ate, they would perform acts of atonement, prayaschittam. In the 6th canto it's described, but in the 6th canto, King Parikshit asked Shukadev, what is the benefit of this prayaschittam? Because the desire to commit sin does not go away. So Shukadev's reply was basically what's said in Bhagavad Gita, Raso Varjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nivartate. If you get a higher taste, if you give up the desire, you have to give up that desire. Give up those material desires. Material desires means sinful activity. Because activity in the material world, except for the service of the Lord, which is transcendental, binds one to the law of action and reaction, karma siddhanta. But those who are intelligent followers of Vedic culture, they know that they might have performed some sinful activities, so they perform austerities to destroy those sins. Or Vedic yagnas, yajñayar ishtva, no, traimam somapaf, puta papa. Puta papa means destroying sins. If you destroy your papas, your sins, you can get elevated to a higher planet. In the material world, there are many planets. Modern science wants to see those planets, but it's not possible. It's beyond sense perception. It's in the realm of speculation and conjecture for those who want to use their senses to see something that is actually beyond their grasp, beyond the power of their senses. There are many stories of wonderful things in the Bhagavatam. And because our experiences are limited, our knowledge is limited, we cannot understand fully. Just like this Shobari Muni. I think Shobari Muni, is this the same? No, this is a different person. I'm thinking that because of the fish, but Matsya avatar, but that was Satyavrat, right? Satyavrat, not Shobari. So Shobari is lamenting. By seeing animals engaged in sexual affairs, the desire to enjoy sex life came in his mind, and he changed his body by the power of his yoga. We see so many people in this country now practicing yoga, right? It's become very popular. Yoga studios all over the place. Different yogas. There was a, not long ago, editorial, what is it called? Op-ed, open editorial, not by the publishers or the editors of the New York Times. So a yoga teacher at a university, now they're teaching yoga in the university. And that yoga teacher, a lady, was lamenting that there is no moral code for the yoga teachers because the yoga teachers sexually harass the women who are studying yoga with them. And then in the article, I read this article, and she gave so many examples. The latest is this Vikram Chaudhary, right? You've heard of his hot yoga. He's 73 years old, and he's been charged, indicted, you know, you understand, right? Indicted. He's been, in other words, well, here it's called indicted, in India it's called charge sheeted. They filed a charge in the court, the police, against him for sexual abuse of his students. 73-year-old man. So yoga demands brahmacharya, restraint from sex. That's part of the practice of yoga. Shobhati was practicing yoga. And because of that yoga practice, he got a lot of power. So one may question, so many people are practicing yoga, why they don't have these powers, right? It's naturally, it comes in the mind. Because when here in the Bhagavat, powerful rishis are described and they have mystic powers. How can we change our body from an old man into a young man? It's never been seen. But we believe the Bhagavatam is history. We believe it's history. So it must mean that this type of yoga that they're practicing today is not what yoga really is. They do exercises and they get their body fit. But the other parts of yoga, there are 8 limbs, right? Ashtanga. Ashta is 8, Anga, limbs. So Ashtanga yoga, they might not be practicing properly. Otherwise they would have had these mystic powers. Shobhati himself lamented that he fell down from yoga. And he married 50 princesses. This was already described, right, in the last few days. He lived like a king, although he wasn't the king as such. There are many members of royal families who live like kings, right, but they're not the king. There can only be one king in a particular area. There was a Chakravarti Raja. Chakravarti means a chakra, a wheel. Wherever that wheel can move, in other words, everywhere, all around. That was the emperor in English, Chakravarti. And there were small kings, Samanta Raja. Each village had a headman who was like a Raja, a king. So that was a system of administration, the Varnashram system of administration. What we see in the world today, and even in India, is the English system. India was colonized by the British. Much of Africa was colonized by the British. The West Indies, what do you call it here? The Caribbean was colonized by the British. And they introduced their system of tax collections and governmental oversight and taxation. Oh, I already said that. Taxation and administration. But there was an old ancient system. Taxation also and administration also. And those who had that responsibility were kings. But then kings had family. And when kings were wealthy, and so their family members enjoyed that wealth. But they had a different system of enjoyment. Sattvic, we believe, enjoyment in the mode of goodness. There was also enjoyment in the mode of passion. And that led to destruction, right? The Yadavas, the family members of Lord Krishna became so powerful. It was a burden on the earth. So Lord Krishna arranged that they would gather together and destroy each other. And that's what happened. There's in India, when they want to refer to this type of internal conflict where there's like self-destruction, they call it Yadustali, the place of the Yadus, referring to that incident after the disappearance of Lord Krishna, where all the Yadavas, his family members, gathered and killed each other. Balaram also was there. And that way, the understanding of our Vaishnavacharyas is that they were devatas, demigods, who went back to the heavenly planets, and they enacted this internal quarrel to leave this world quickly after the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Here this yogi is lamenting, because the aim of yoga is liberation. The aim of yoga is not supposed to be material enjoyment. But today's yoga, all these yoga classes, the aim is to have a fit body so you can enjoy more. Basically, that's what they're selling, an idea that if you do these exercises, you'll be fit and healthy. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. Shobhati laments that he indulged in that enjoyment. So he was wise. And most of the people who are indulging in this type of enjoyment, they don't realize that they've wasted their time. They don't realize that they're on the wrong path. They don't realize that the aim of this yoga is to become free from the repetition of birth and death. They're not being taught. Well, they don't want to hear that. They want a good body. So this is not something new. This is age-old. It looks like, oh, now people are interested in yoga. But it's been going on for thousands of years. Who gets liberation? Few. It has to be taken very seriously, and to give up sense gratification is very difficult. Like eating too much prasad. We're supposed to take a little prasad. I mean, there are people that go on eating all day. Right? All day. Oh, they just keep putting it in the mouth. How can they be yogis? Yuktahara. What is only required for body and soul? It's clearly instructed in Gita. Yukta vihara. Certain amount of rest and recreation. Somebody has to take rest. Or like Prabhupada said, swimming and wrestling are Vaishnav sports. Generally, we're not supposed to be interested in sports. It's a waste of time. Prabhupada criticized the golfers. There's a golf course over here, right? It's not far. You see the people playing golf there. Hours go by. We have to pass the time. After retirement, what to do? Prabhupada said they have invented something new to waste their time. But the body needs some rest, so every day we take rest. Someone who's transcendental may not need to take rest. Someone who's transcended, at the end, Prabhupada was also saying, right, I'm giving up these animal activities, eating and sleeping. Giving it up by practice of yoga is difficult. It's not easy. Not easy. Hare Krishna. So some lessons from the Shobhati story. It's not over, right? It's almost over. It's not fully over. He's praised for knowing Vedas. When the translation says he was expert in chanting mantras, I already mentioned that, but we have to go over it again. When you say chanting mantras, what does it mean? Right? Without this being explained to people who never lived in India. Because in India, Brahmins, now there's a few only left. A few means there are thousands, But in the population of 1.3 billion, sometimes it's hard to see the thousands, right? When there's such a huge population and you're not being instructed to notice how the Brahmanas are studying. You know what they do? The boys, from the age of 8 till 12, they memorize these Veda mantras. You may ask why? Because a Brahmana was supposed to be expert, right? It's right in the verse. Bahu richa acharyaha. Acharya, one who teaches by example. Richas are the mantras of the Vedas. It's not something that was made up. There's a system, a family system, for that the son of a Brahmana who belongs to a particular lineage, will study a particular section of the Vedas. Rig Vedis, they'll study Rig Veda. Then there's Krishna Yajurvedis and Shukla Yajurvedis who study the Krishna Yajurveda and the Shukla Yajurveda. Samavedis, the Samaveda, Atharva Vedis by tradition. A Brahmana is supposed to be. Shobhati is special, but part of being special, besides having attained yoga siddhis, perfection of yoga, was that he not only knew the Veda mantras because he studied them in the childhood, but he was expert at employing them in sacrifices. Bahu means many. There is a god brother, Bahu Shira. You've heard of him? No. He's the one who sold me Bhagavad Gita in the old Evanston temple. He's still around. He works in a hospital near San Francisco. He does puja in the Berkeley temple. You know, like householders come in here and do puja. He does that once a week or something. Shira is head. Bahu, many. There's some other examples. Anyway, Bahu Richa Acharya. He was a teacher, a great teacher of Veda mantras. He taught students Vedas. That system is still extant. It didn't go away because Kali Yuga began. In fact, what we understand is that one Veda was divided into four for Kali Yuga by Vyas. The word Vyas means one who arranged the Vedas to be divided. Samaveda is songs. What do they call it? Samaganam. Have you heard that expression? No? Samaganams, chanting they're also Richa. Richa, Rik. Richa means Rik Veda. It means mantras, a particular type of mantra. Despite his knowing the Veda and being expert in the Veda, despite his having attained yoga siddhi, the desire for material enjoyment didn't go away. So all we can do is learn from this, that we have to give up material desire, but if we can't give it up, what should we do? We should not leave Krishna Bhakti. That's the teaching. Although he fell down, he picked himself up. Ultimately, the story is that he picked himself up. Ajamil picked himself up. Ajamil is last time I spoke. Yeah, it's a similar case, but it's different. Because, they went in different ways. But both of them in the end realized that this whole struggle for sense enjoyment that goes on birth after birth, the struggle for sense enjoyment, the animals are, the fish are having sex. The birds, what did Prabhupada say? If you want to have sex, become a pigeon. Because a pigeon has sex, what is it? 32 times. Right? You remember that? No? You never heard that? How many times? Yeah, lots of times. Here the pigeons are not in the temple room, but in our temple room we have the pigeons. And they're engaging in sexual affairs. Because that's what pigeons do. Well, that's what all the animals do. You see the dogs in the road in India. Here you don't see. Oh, you see dogs, but you don't see them locked in, what is it? They're locked together because of sex. You're not supposed to see that. You're not supposed to look. But sometimes you can't help it. Animal life. That's what animal life is. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So if human life is only that, so there are examples given of fall downs in the Bhagavad. So that we can learn from that, not to fall down. But still we fall down. Many, many devotees fall down. One sannyasi fell down, left ISKCON. Then at the end he came to Prabhupada. And he cried. He bowed down, he cried, Prabhupada, I'm fallen. How can you accept me back? He said, live as a householder. Be a householder. So, stay in our society, Prabhupada said. The moral is that we should try and pick ourselves up if we're fallen. It's regrettable. It's lamentable. This is a lamentation, especially the second verse without the purport. While practicing, alas, he's lamenting. While practicing austerity within the depths of the water. So he was underwater performing tapasya. These yoga schools, they don't teach that, right? I don't think any of them teach that. Performing austerity means subjecting yourself to extraordinary difficulty, like living inside the water. Still, I fell down. I was following the regulations, still I fell down. The next verse is like that. But I guess I shouldn't spoil the next verse. Spoiler. I shouldn't be a spoiler. But basically it's the same theme. The same theme of lamentation and instruction. That somebody who's on the path of yoga should not associate. Now, you can say, well, he was performing austerity in the water. How did he associate with those fish? By looking at them engaging in sexual activities, he was associating with them. So that's a fault of that we all, anyway, I have myself to, all of us, even by reading the news, something new, but it's about materialistic people. People in the mode of ignorance. How to disassociate. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha. You have to read about Krishna. So studying Bhagavatam or Gita. Jade deke thade kaha Krishna Upadesh. Wherever you go, whoever you see, you should give them the teachings of Gita. Krishna Upadesh means teachings of Gita. Upadesh is teachings. And Krishna, well, we know Lord Krishna's teachings are in the Gita. Gita is part of Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is called the fifth Veda. So it doesn't mean that because we study the Bhagavad and we study the Mahabharata, which is different from the Bhagavat, right? Bhagavat Mahapurana, one of the 18 Puranas, and the Mahabharata is a separate history. It doesn't mean that we reject the Vedas. We do not reject the Vedas. If there's a fifth Veda, because people couldn't understand, but doesn't mean it's rejected. It doesn't mean it's rejected. Hare Krishna. A few minutes for questions. Not a lot of... Oh, I closed it without the place. Okay. Yes. Oh. It's not on? The button? Hopefully the battery is working. Maybe the battery died. Wait. Here is a good Boy Scout. Be prepared. Always have a new battery with you. Yeah, you can. The question is how to maintain Krishna consciousness, but that was answered in the lecture. Because you didn't finish? You have to have a taste for Krishna. One thing is, if somebody wants to have sex, they have to become a householder. Because the highest is to not have sex. But if it's not possible, be a householder. So this example of the sannyasi, Prabhupada took a risk. He made Westerners who had no idea what was Vedic culture and who didn't grow up in Vedic culture, he made sannyasis, many. And half of them fell down. Half of them. That's a lot. So when one of them lamenting came to Prabhupada, like Shobhati was lamenting here, alas. Alas is a lamentation. That's what happened to this sannyasi. He came crying to Prabhupada, I've fallen down. What should I do? So stay in our society, be a householder. So when you say that, it's not so simple, I agree. You also have to have a taste for Vedic literature. We're supposed to be reading again and again these instructions. Even that is very difficult. When people in India, they hear these Bhagavad Saptas, you've heard of that? 1 week recitation of Bhagavatam. It doesn't inspire them to give up even drinking tea or being non-vegetarian. Why? Yeah, the attraction of the material energy like Shobhati or like Ajamil. Krishna says when you get a higher taste, you give up the lower taste. Then he describes to Arjuna how when one meditates on the objects of the senses, he falls down and his intelligence is destroyed. Then he tells Arjuna, says to control the mind is more difficult than to control the wind. Then Krishna says, no, but it is possible by constant practice. So that's the only answer, constant practice. Has to be lifetime, lifelong. Same time, we shouldn't be fanatic. Niyamagraha, it's described, right? Too much attachment to the rules and regulations makes one a fanatic, and then you lose sight of the goal. Same time, niyamagraha also means not following the rules, becoming too lax. Like, for instance, food. There are devotees, you know and I know, they'll go in a non-vegetarian restaurant and order a vegetarian I spoke about this earlier. That's one example. It goes on and on, you know. You can maintain relations with your family and friends, but if you become too attached to the family and friends, well, then the friends will say, have a beer with me, right? So you can't become too attached. You can try and preach to them, maintain friend relations throughout your life. There are devotees, they have friends from when they were kids, including some of our ISKCON gurus. There's nothing wrong with that. If they preach to them, they try and make them. But if you become too friendly with materialistic people, this is going to be in tomorrow's verse. If you become too attached to friendship with materialistic people, well, whether there was materialistic people in India also, even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the story of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, right? He was a little materialistic, so in a dream, Jagannath came and slapped him, right? You know the story? You don't remember that. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ramananda Rai, I'm not making it up. You know, what did he do? What was Ramananda Rai doing? Brahmacharis should not hear. Brahmacharis should not hear. But he was a topmost devotee. He was a topmost devotee. So sometimes it's hard to understand. It says there, he was touching the body of naked girls, but had no effect. If we go where there's an attractive young girl who's naked, we'll fall down, isn't it? But the topmost devotee may not fall down. Garuda does not fall down when he eats fish. His body is meant for eating fish. But how can we say that when his body is transcendental? Some things are hard to understand, some things. But then there are general principles. If we indulge in the mode of ignorance, drinking beer, eating non-vegetarian food, we'll certainly fall down. Now, sometimes, you know, people say, well, your family members will get elevated because you became a devotee. You'll take generations and generations back home, back to Godhead. If you go back home, back to God. If you go back home, back to Godhead, just putting on the dress and the tilak, it's good. You're following Vedic culture. But in and of itself, it's not enough. You have to be fully absorbed. It's a tough, you know, path. The path of ultimately obtaining the greatest success. Anta kale chamameva smaran mukba kalevaram. Thinking of Krishna at the time of death and being freed from a material body is not so easy. We say it's easy. Then we show Ajamil, he did it. That's an exceptional case. Ajamil is an exceptional case. According to Lord Krishna, it's an exceptional case because he says that the fallen yogi gets another birth. That means he didn't get liberation. Prabhupada wrote the letter to Jayananda, right? You put his picture on the Rath cart. Even in India and some places in Bombay, they put his picture on the Rath cart. And Prabhupada wrote him a letter after he left his body. He passed away before Prabhupada. Like Haridas Thakur left his body before Mahaprabhu ended his Leela. If you had any material desire, you went to the heavenly planets, Prabhupada wrote. You read that letter? Really, it's famous. You can just Google it and you'll get Prabhupada's letter. I think it was May 1977. And if you were thinking of Krishna at the time of death, you went back home, back to Godhead. So that's the aim. But, you know, Maya is powerful. Mama Maya Duratyaya. My internal illusory energy is very powerful. How do you cross over? Mam eva ye prapadyante. If you surrender to me, mayam etam tarantite, you can cross over this illusory energy. Full surrender, not easy. In this temple, there's only one person who's been here for all those years, right? It's an example. He's setting an example. He may not be the greatest intellectual, or he may be. He just doesn't want to give a lecture. But the dedication to the service of Krishna is indisputable. There are other examples, right? There are probably many. Who is a pure devotee? Who knows? Kishore Kishori knows. I can't say. I can't say. I may be inspired by some examples. But to really give up everything and engage in the service of Krishna. Most of the people we've seen who've been around for so many came and went. India is different. The people maintain long-term relationships. I know in this country, I don't know. Maybe I don't know so much. I don't live here. You know better. Gita says, out of thousands, one knows me. Right? Krishna says, out of thousands, one know me. It's a tough test. It's like becoming a PhD. How many years you have to study, or medical to become a doctor and a specialist, right? By the time you graduate, you're 30 years old. Medical school, pre-medical, medical, post, it's a tough, that's just an analogy. This is tougher. This is more difficult, spiritual life. And to actually be detached from Maya. If you cannot be a householder. Householder is a license for sense enjoyment. Prabhupada said like that. But at least you're trying to be Krishna conscious. Most of the great devotees in the Bhagavatam were householders. Narad Muni is a brahmachari. The 4 Kumaras are brahmacharis. Any other examples in the Bhagavat? Parikshit was not. Shukadev was a brahmachari. Okay. We have 4, 1, 6. Narad Muni, Shukadev, and the 4 Kumaras. Any other example? Bhishma, 7. Bhishma was a brahmachari. And the word Bhishma means terrible because being a brahmachari is very, very difficult. They were, especially for a king who's living in a royal circumstances, palace, all facilities. Excuse me. The point is there are a few, very few. Most of the Arjuna, Yudhishthir, who are the other devotees? Pardon? Brahma, he has a consort. Brahma has a wife. Indra has all the apsaras. They're considered, all the devatas have a consort. No, but in the Bhagavatam, all the different kings that are described, Akrura, the gopis, the gopas, they're all householders. It's not a question of a debate, but the practical reality. So don't leave. Stay. Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. No matter all the devotees that join the Krishna conscious movement and then they're fallen, once you start, there's no end until you reach perfection.
Well, whatever swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, right, in Gita. Swalpam means just a little. Swalpam api, even a little. Asya dharmasya, of this system of religion. Asya dharmasya, of this dharma. Swalpam api, asya dharmasya. Trayate, it will protect you. Tranaya karunya. Tranaya means to protect. Trana. Tranakarta. You know him, right? You don't know him? Tranakarta, he comes to Chicago. He's from Chicago.
Tranakarta?
Yeah. Tranakarta.
Yeah.
One who does protection. Karta means the doer. We had that the other day, right? Karta. Tranakarta, one who protects. Who gives protection. Tranaya, for protection. Swalpam api asya dharmasya tranaya mahato bhayat. Isn't that it? Trayate, thank you. Trayate, it's the same trana, trayate, giving protection, mahataha, great, bhayat, fear. From great danger, even a little advancement on this path can protect you. Krishna says in Gita. So whoever did some seva, some service, like when I joined here, there was a devotee who was selling incense. Later on, he became the president of Washington, D.C. temple when Prabhupada came there. And then later on, at a younger age, he passed away, left his body. He had left the movement, I think. You know, he had left, and I don't know the whole story, but he did some service here and there. Then he left. So, he might get a good janma. He might have, this was a long time ago, he left his body. It's going on every day. People leaving their bodies and taking another body. So those who did some service, some bhakti to Krishna, we believe, according to the teachings of Gita, that he will get a better situation in the next life.
It's real rare for a devotee to reach perfection in one lifetime? That's really rare, right?
Yeah.
When that happens.
Yeah. That's due to, even when a great Brahmana and a great Acharya like Shobhati fell down. So what to speak of tiny jivas like us? I mean, of course, he is also a jiva. The jiva has the tendency to be, affected by Maya. Therefore, Mama Maya Duratyaya, my Maya is very powerful. So I think I'm great. I'm a great king, or I'm a great businessman, or a great whatever. But time reduces. Just like in India, there was a famous wrestler, Dara Singh. He came, I met him in the Juhu temple. He left his body. He was old. He was 79, 80 years old. So even if you're a great, powerful person physically, you have to give up your body. There was recently a Bengali guy who was a bodybuilder. He lived till like 104. He passed away. He left his body. So even if you make your body very strong, you have to give it up in due course of time. Now, where does the soul go? That is important. That's what we say. That's why we're here. To uplift the soul out of this material entanglement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prayer, Shikshastakam, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkar, what's it? Ainanda Tanuja, O Krishna, Kinkaram, I'm your servant, Patitam, but I'm fallen. Vishame Bhavambudo, in the ocean of Maya, in the material world. Kripaya, please, Tavapada Pankaja, at your lotus feet, Stita Dhuli Sadrisham, keep me as a speck of dust. Dhul is a Hindi word. It's very common in India. Dhuli, speck of dust. Sadrisham, like that. Sadrisha means like a speck of dust. Vichintaya, my thinking, my hope, my prayer is that you will keep me as a speck of dust at your feet. I pray to you. It's in His hands. Ultimately, it's up to Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayanti Te. I give them the knowledge by which they can come to me. So if we Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, if we worship with love, then He will give us the knowledge. And Swalpamapi Asya Dharmasya Trayate, no, there's the other one. Kaunteya Pratijanihi. O Kunti Putra Arjuna, Pratijanihi, tell everyone, declare it. Prabhupada used the word declare. Declaration of what? Liberation. Kaunteya Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashati, my devotee is not destroyed, it does not perish. What does it mean? Someone who is a devotee, Krishna will uplift him. Then all the jivas are Krishna's. Someday they will all be uplifted. Mukunda Datta, right? I have one prayer, send me to hell if all these jivas could be just uplift one universe full of jivas. That is the great compassion of a devotee. Because they're all suffering. Everyone in the material world is suffering. Some birth, death, old age, and disease. Hare Krishna. Again, we ran too late. Somebody's going to get upset. Why are you talking too long? Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you for your questions. Nice questions. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.